This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for December 1st. 2024, that's right, December 1st. This is season 14, episode number 24, and episode number 463 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Yes, indeed, I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have a lot to go over and to talk about. We obviously saw at the beginning of Saturday night's game, the return of Josh Fletcher. Yes, that's right. Josh Fletcher has returned. He has been legally allowed to enter the United States. As some of you know, Kyle Steffen, Dan Stone, Josh Fletcher. There are guys, Tyson Kirkby is another one of them, that obviously, being Canadian residents, have to get work visas or visas to get into the country. And it's taken Josh Fletcher a while now to be able to get into the country here to be able to play with the Binghamton Black Bears. But we got to see that, so that's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. I did speak to Josh a few weeks ago, and he told me that they were working on things, trying to get things resolved, and he even kept it from me, a secret from me, about being in the States. I wish I was in the arena so I could have said hello in person, but I did text him during the game, and he very happy to be back, as you would expect that he would be, which was pretty cool. Obviously, this team had a very good weekend. There's a lot really kind of to unpack from this weekend, which we will certainly do here in the show. We have a great guest, my friend, Gary Ryan is here on the show to talk about the state of the league, to talk about Hudson Valley a little bit more, so you'll get more information about Hudson Valley, and of course about the Black Bears and Watertown Wolves and how good both of these teams, they really are both really good teams. And I don't think that Saturday night's performance by Watertown is indicative on how good they are. I just think that when you give the Black Bears confidence, when you give the Black Bears room, and if you make mistakes, the Black Bears will, create situations that will benefit them in the long run. And that includes getting you to draw penalties. And if you're slow, if you're behind them, and I know the Watertown Wolves did not have an easy Saturday. They did not have an easy Friday. Black Bears came to them in a very defensive mind up in Watertown, and they literally took it to the Watertown Wolves, a team that had a lot of confidence, 28 goals in 3 games coming into this last weekend. And the Black Bears shut them down and only allowed them to score 1 goal. Connor McAnanima was good. He was just plain out good. And so I don't think what happened on Saturday was indicative. I think that's a younger team than the Black Bears. And when I say that, I don't mean that the Black Bears are an old veteran squad, but they've already done some of this stuff last year, right? They won the championship last year. They've already learned certain things about themselves, about their team. And I think Watertown needs to kind of work through some of that. And I think that's probably the reason why the Black Bears just came out on fire on Saturday and was able to do what they did and get that big victory over them. The first home win so far in the 4 games that have been played between the Wolves and the Black Bears. All right, let's get into the must-read so I can actually get in. We'll break down these 2 games. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, as I said just a few minutes ago, the Fed League flashes, Gary Ryan is on, and we talk about a whole slew of things. So let's get right into it. The Black Bears take both weekend games versus the Watertown Wolves, protecting and cementing themselves as the Empire Division's top team. Now, on Friday night, the Black Bears defeated the Wolves 2-1. All right, in the first period, the Black Bears get the first goal of the game after an initial Anton Barakin save. Kyle Stefan cleaned up the rebound chance for his fifth goal of the season at the 10:34 mark of the first period. That was the first goal of the game. Was the only goal in the first period. The Wolves were only playing with a 17-man roster as Joshua Tomasi is still serving a multi-game suspension. The Black Bears are back. We're back to their 18-man roster with the return of Kyle Steffen. Steffen's goal is the perfect example of putting yourself in front of the netminder and good things will happen. Lair Patakin took 3 penalties in the first period. His slashing penalties seemed to be a two-hander, which should be reviewed by the league. The Black Bears were 0 for 3 on the power play. Watertown is aggressive on the penalty kill, and they plug the lanes very well. And they did that on Friday night, but they didn't do it so well on Saturday night. Watertown has not had many periods with no goals scored in a period. So this is a big win for the Black Bears, and that really was. That first period was a really big win. Connor McAnanama played well in the period and needed to, as Watertown had some clear shots on him. Now, the shots on goal in the first period were Binghamton 15, Watertown 11. But I would say that a good portion of those Watertown shots, the 11 of them, a good portion of them were good, clean, visual shots that Connor had to save. They weren't just shots that were, dump-ins or anything like that. These were good, clean shots that he had good visual on. Now, if you give him the ability to have a good visual, he's going to make those saves more times than not. Now, in the second period, no scoring for either team in the second period as the Black Bears got into some penalty trouble, but was able to kill the penalty time. They've been doing really good on the penalty kill recently, right? They started off a little slow on the penalty kill, and I think Brent Sherwood has figured out who are his guys, and he's kind of stuck with them and giving them the ability to get better at it. Emerson Emery was jumped by Harris Jr. after Emery appeared to hit a Watertown Wolves player who was down on the ice face down after running into Connor McAnanama. Dylan Infantino served the penalty for Harris Jr., who was assessed also a game misconduct. The Wolves are playing with only a 17-man roster as Joshua Tomasi is still serving the multi-game suspension. Actually, I already read that part. Starting at the 11:46 mark of the second period, the Black Bears were either a man down or 2 men down for these penalties, although the McAmanna penalty was never posted yet. Okay, and it never did get posted. But basically, you had Binghamton, Jesse Anderson tripping at the 2-minute mark, at the 11:46 mark. Then you go to a 5-on-3 power play for the Wolves when Dakota Bond gets a high stick penalty at the 12:39 mark, right? Then, also at the 12:39 mark, there was some sort of, Connor McAnanama type of penalty or something. This put Caden Henry into the penalty box at the 12:39 mark as well. So now your 5-on-3 can't turn into a 5-on-2. So there is a rule in place that means that you finish off the first 5-on-3 and then you continue that second penalty, right, to keep going. So that's why the penalty time went a little bit longer than normal. Dan Weaver then got a tripping call at the 13:31 mark. So they were basically 5-on-3 for a very long time, almost 3 full minutes. However, they killed all these penalties, which included 3 minutes of 5-on-3, time for the Wolves. The Black Bears went from the 9:38 mark of the second period to the end of the period with no shots on goal due to the lengthy penalty time. But again, at the end of the second period, they're still winning this game 1-0. Shots on goal in the period for Binghamton, it was only 6. Watertown had 16. They had all that power play time, 5-on-3 time. The total at the end of the second period was Binghamton 21 and Watertown 27. Now, in the third period, the Wolves did tie up the game at the 50 with 5:37 left to go in the third period after a rebound shot from Jadwin Blacksmith gets past Black Bears netminder Connor McAnanama, with Dan Stone in the penalty box for holding. Austin Thompson and Gavin Yates came streaking in shorthanded, and Austin Thompson scored another shorthanded goal with 2:47 left in the third period, giving the Black Bears a 2-1 lead and the eventual win in Watertown. Okay, so the Black Bears went shotless from the 9:38 mark of the second period to 1:19 in the third period after Zach Sirota got a shot on the Wolves netminder, Barakin. Cam Cervoni did leave the game in the second period and did not return. At the 8:08 mark of the third period, Connor McAnanama made an outstanding coast-to-coast save to keep the game at 1-0 at that point. Beautiful, beautiful save. One of the things that I've seen is that Connor can go east to west very well. And I think he's gotten better than he was last year at going east to west or west to east. Either way, he does that coast-to-coast kind of move a lot more smoothly than most goaltenders I see in the FPHL. A very well-needed shorthanded tally from Austin Thompson, who scored his 9th goal of the season with that shorthanded goal. Blake Tosto had the only other Black Bears shorty at the Binghamton home opener against the Watertown Wolves, 5-3 loss. On the road, this was a great win as the Black Bears shorthanded with call-ups and going against a high-powered Wolves get another road win in Binghamton. Big defensive effort from the Black Bears, especially going down 5 defensemen. Connor McAnanama had another great game. And, of course, Tyson Kirkby wasn't even here because he was called up to the ECHL. So that was obviously important. He gets that first call up for him. It's good, for players to get up to the ECHL level. It's great for Tyson. I mean, again, we're going to talk about Tyson here in just a little bit and the impact and what he means to Binghamton hockey. But that's huge. The Black Bears then beat the Wolves 9-2, which saw the return of Tyson Kirkby. So he comes back from Adirondack Thunder, his one game up there, and he does play an important role, obviously, in this team, no matter what happens. Okay, in the first period, with the Wolves getting into penalty trouble early in the first period, the Black Bears score on a 5-on-3 man-up opportunity off the stick of C.J. Stubbs, scoring his first goal of the season. The Black Bears then scored again on another 5-on-3 power play as the Donald Oliveri, scored the Black Bears' second goal of the game at the 6:48 mark of the first. The Black Bears then take a 3-goal lead as Jesse Anderson scored his first goal of the season with 1:25 left to go in the first period. So you had, just in that first period, 2 guys score their first goals of the season. Obviously, the first period notes start actually at the beginning of the first period. The ceremonial puck drop was done by Josh Fletcher, who flew in last night. Josh will be back with the Black Bears and will be at practice on Tuesday as he rejoins the Bears. Brooks Hill did announce that Cam Cervoni was placed on the 15-day IR, which will make room for the Black Bears to sign Josh Fletcher and get him on the team. Within the first 6:17 of this period, the Wolves got into some serious penalty trouble, just like the Black Bears did the night before, with 4 penalties leading to multiple 5-on-3s and 2 5-on-3 power play goals. That's huge. That is one way to really kind of, get it to hurt. Now, I saw some fans from Watertown talk about how there were so many power plays for the Black Bears, and listen, The only reason why you can really complain about that is because your team gave up 5-on-3 power play goals. But the night before, the Black Bears were down 5-on-3 multiple times as well. I think 3 times in the whole game. So the Black Bears were being assessed penalties. I hate this thing where players just or not players, but fans just go nuts on the referees when their team's not doing well. You can't blame the referees. Okay, you can't. Can you talk about the inconsistency of way they call penalties? Sure. But referees do not cost teams games. They just don't. And the league, as much as I rail on the league sometimes, the league has definitely improved their video review, first of all. And we've seen that here in Binghamton already this year. Video review of goals that are close and that they need to be reviewed. And yeah, it could have been 10-2 because there was a goal that a shot that was put in on Barakin and it went in between his legs. And to me, understanding science and how things work, I could tell you that puck went across the line, but I didn't visually see it. And we don't make calls on that way. So either way, the point is, though, is fans, when you blame the referees for your team losing or giving up power play goals, it's just not the way it is. And I think most players will tell you that they needed to do a better job. Whether it's the Black Bears players or the Wolves players, I don't think they're going to sit there and go, oh, the refs just threw that game on us. Well, the night before, the Black Bears were put into a bunch of 5-on-3s. Matter of fact, I counted 3 of them, right? Yet they did not give up power play goals. So there is a difference. The Black Bears had a hot start to the first 10 minutes of the period with 15 shots to 4 shots lead over the Wolves. Donald Oliveri laid a huge hit on Declan Flanagan, who then needed assistance off the ice. However, the replay of the hit didn't show any dirtiness in the hit, more of an unfortunate type of hit. I think Flanagan was trying to also kind of avoid the hit as well, and that actually made it even more awkward. Unfortunately, both C.J. Stubbs and Jesse Anderson scored their first goals of the season. The Black Bears won this period. Even when the power play was in front of Connor McAnanima, they were just playing good defense and just getting their sticks down and just really buckling down. The penalty kill has been so good, and they're not allowing good shots on the penalty, on the power plays for other teams, which I think is helpful a lot. It really started in Danbury. It really started about 5 or 6 games ago. The penalty kill just started buckling down and doing well. And I think they've given up 1 power play goal in the last 5 games. And so I'll have to look that number up because that's obviously very good. So let's see here. In the second period, the Black Bears scored their 4th goal of the game, shorthanded as Chris Mott was in the box for hooking, which saw a Wolves turnover, and Kirkby and Bond setting up Austin Thompson for his second shorty of the weekend. So now they had 3 shorties this year, and Austin Thompson's got 2 of them. The Wolves left Gavin Yates all alone, which you don't do, on the right side of Anton Barakin, and who received a pass from C.J. Stubbs and scored the Black Bears' 5th goal of the game at the 6:46 mark of the middle period. So it's already 6-0, 5-0, and only 6:46 into the middle period, into the second period. The Black Bears not letting up the gas, and they did not the whole game. Scored their 3rd power play goal after Jesse Anderson scored his 2nd goal of the game at the 15:49 mark of the period. After the game's first fight at the 19:03 mark of the second period, the Wolves finally beat Black Bears netminder Connor McAnanima with a goal 26 seconds after the tilt off the stick of Ross Bartlett. So don't tell me that dropping the gloves does not help you. It does. It changes sometimes the momentum. It was a good fight. I don't think we won the fight. I think the Wolves player did a pretty good job there. And then, boom, what happens 26 seconds later? They score a goal. Makes a difference. All right, the Austin Thompson shorthanded goal and Tyson Kirkby's assist on that goal, which it took that long, means that Tyson Kirkby, with all the goals scored, Tyson it was that shorthanded goal from Austin Thompson that Tyson now has the Black Bears franchise lead for points all by himself, right? He had the lead with, obviously, Nikita Ivashkin at 196. But now with that assist, there was a secondary assist as well, So, but that, the vision that Tyson Kirkby has, is pretty impressive. The Black Bears lead for points with 197. Extended his franchise points lead. Kirkby then got a second assist again on the Yates goal, getting himself to 198, 2 away from 200, right? And he's going to be even closer to that before the end of this game. Emerson Emery and Kyle Heitzner both dropped the gloves at the 1903 mark. 26 seconds later, the Wolves scored that first goal. I already talked about that. The second period ended with a skirmish, which led to a lot of players pairing off, but nothing much came from it. But there was a bunch of penalties. That kind of made an interesting start to the third period. Shots on goal in the period: Binghamton 7, Watertown 14. But they scored 3 goals on 7 shots. That says a lot right there. Again, I don't want to say that it's all Brocken's fault, right? There were 3 cross-ice goals. There were a couple goals that he had no chance at all. And I'm surprised Charlie Pence Jr. left him in the game. And we went from last year where goaltenders give up 2 goals, and 2 minutes later, they're gone. They're out, right? Last year, that's how Brian Verbeek ran it, right? And so much so that it basically ran Travis Ridgen out of Watertown. Yet, Charlie Pence Jr. kept him in there, for all 9 goals, which was interesting. So Binghamton ended with 26 shots on goal, Watertown with 22 at the end of the second period. All right. Third period, Dan Stone scored his 3rd goal of the season at the 9:02 mark in the third period, just after a power play had completed for the Black Bears, making this a 7-1 game. The Black Bears making an 8-1 game with 5 minutes to go with an easy goal for Chris Mott. It really was. If you see it, it's that cross-ice thing. Who got a cross-ice pass from Emerson Emery. Just 15 seconds later, though, Michael Mercurio scored an unassisted goal to make it an 8-2 game. With Kyle Heitzner in the box for delay of game, Tyson Kirkby puts an exclamation point on the game with the Black Bears' 4th power play goal of the night to make it 9-2 win for the Black Bears. Now, in the third period, let's see here. Ross Bartlett and Jesse Anderson fought in the third period. It was an okay fight. It was comical at the start of the third period as the Black Bears had, I think 4 players in the penalty box, and the Wolves had 3 or 4 as well. So they were pretty full, pretty interesting. We don't see that enough, honestly. I thought it was fun to see. The Black Bears dominated the Wolves this weekend and won the first game at home between the two teams in 4 games. CJ Stubbs had 1 goal, 4 assists, scoring his first of the season. I don't even care if he scores another goal. If CJ Stubbs keeps setting up guys the way he does, this team's going to be successful. I don't care if he has 5 goals at the end of the season. Just keep setting up guys, because his ability to know where players are that can score goals is pretty remarkable. And that's the mark of somebody who knows how to play the game, because you are going to have more assists in your career most of the time than you are goals. Why not capitalize on that? Why not be good at that? And that is something that CJ Stubbs is good at. It's why he was good at it before, and he's still good at it now. Gavin Yates had a goal and 2 assists. Jesse Anderson scored his first 2 goals of the season. The Black Bears now have an 8-point lead in the Empire Division. The Black Bears with 37 points and the Wolves with 29 points. But the Wolves have played 2 less games, so it's a 2-point net lead for the Bears. If the Wolves win those 2 games that they have in hand, they'll get 6 points, but they'll still be behind the Black Bears by 2 points. So the Black Bears are in a good position right now going into the weekend against Port Huron. Now, Tyson Kirkby scored 1 goal and had 2 assists in his return to the Black Bears, which puts him at 199 points in his career, which makes him the new franchise leader in points. All right, shots on goal in that third period. Binghamton 16, Watertown 16, total 42 for Binghamton, and Watertown with 30. So what does this mean that the Black Bears won two different styles of games with and without key players on the roster? This is what I think. Brant Sherwood has the players, all players, understanding all of the systems. So when someone is out, someone can just step in. Take, for instance, Emerson Emery now can get plugged in with Cam Cervoni out on defense. Why? Because, first of all, he has the skill to do that, and B, he understands how to work. Now, whether or not he'll be with because on Saturday night, he was paired up with Nick Poirier instead of Jesse Anderson. They put Dan Weber up with Jesse Anderson. So that, that's the adjustments that, just is made ahead of time and says, this is what we're going to do. Friday night's game was more of a defensive style game. Sometimes when you go on the road, an offensive team, if they can play offensively good on the road, great. But it's also good to buckle down and play good defense on the road, because you know that the offense, the home team's offense, the Wolves' offense, has their fans behind them. And sometimes it's better to buckle down and hope for them to make a couple mistakes and everything. So slowing things down, whereas on Saturday's game was more up-tempo and the Black Bears took more high-quality chances, that clearly paid off, right? I like the way they played both games, because at home in front of 4,000 fans, you can do whatever you want. You're always going to get a little bit of encouragement. You're always going to get somebody cheering or chanting. You're going to hear those chants, and you're going to go from there. All right. And then on the road, you don't have that. So you got to get in the mindset of like, listen, we got to be good defensively. We do not want to get the home team's fans into this game. And I think the Black Bears played two great games this weekend. If you're not sure who was the leader of the Empire Division, I think you know now, right? I think the Black Bears have not been knocked off that mantle yet. They're still the best team in this division, and they still are probably the best team in the league. All right? Tyson Kirkby scored his 197th point, his 198th, and his 199th point. Now the Binghamton Black Bears franchise leader in points. He's also, right now, tied with Justin Plamadon from the BC Icemen with 199 points in Binghamton hockey history. And yes, Gary Ryan later on will talk about how it's apples and oranges from league to league to league. But I'm still looking at it in the history. How has he done in the history of Binghamton hockey and where he stands? I'm going to look at that. I just am. Now, right now, he and Justin are 1 point behind Paul Fenton, who played with the Binghamton Whalers, who has 200 points. So another 2 points, and he'll be solely in 13th place. 12th place, I believe, has 201 or 202 points. Actually, 202 points. So he's moving up the ranks here in Binghamton hockey history. Congratulations to Tyson Kirkby. Now, Connor McAnanama had a little bit of a milestone that they didn't talk about. He takes over the minutes record in franchise history with 2,221. We'll just call it 2,222 because it's 49 seconds, and we'll round up that minute. So Connor McAnanama has played the most minutes in Binghamton Black Bears history with 222. Now, what does that also mean? Because right now he has also other franchise records for the Binghamton Black Bears. He's got the most wins. I believe he's got 28 wins now. Goals against average. He has the saves percentage. He has the shutout record. So Connor McAnanama now owns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's close to also breaking the games played record as well. So the only thing he doesn't have yet is saves, but that's coming. But basically, if Connor finishes out this season here in Binghamton, and they continue to have the season they have, he's basically going to own every single record, franchise record, as long as his goals against and his save percentage continue the way they are, because he's above 920. He's right at that 231, 230 mark for his career. So for all the games that he's played. He's going to own, at the end of this season, every single record for goaltenders. And he already owns most of them in the playoffs. So that's pretty awesome for Connor McAnanama. Let's see here. Right now, so he beat out Owen Liskowitz, who had the minutes record at 21:58, and now Connor has 22:22. This upcoming weekend, the Black Bears will play Port Huron in 2 games at the arena. I hope to have interviews this week. Stay tuned for announcements. I hope to have 2 interviews, and definitely looking at potentially talking to Josh Fletcher in his return. I'm sure he'll be a hot commodity this week, but it'll be great to talk to him and sit down. And honestly, Brooks does a great job with the Tully Show, but you only have so much time. I can give Josh as much time as he wants to kind of talk about the certain things and the difficulties to get back here in the country. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, we're going to continue our conversation, and we got the Fed League flashes, Gary Ryan, to talk a little bit more about Binghamton and Watertown. We'll also go into the Hudson Valley situation with him and what the league can or might do, and neither one of us have anything bad to say about what the league is trying to do. The league is trying to save this team for this season, and we both feel really bad for the players. So, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the state of the league and talk about some of the other teams that maybe the Black Bears haven't seen yet. And so that's pretty cool. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, Gary Ryan from the Fed League Flash. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Generally, I give everybody an introduction, but this guy really doesn't need an introduction, but I will do so anyways. He comes to us from the Fed League Flash. He is Gary Ryan. Gary, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Gary, obviously, last night at the arena, you sat in the press box, my seat. Please don't get too comfortable with that. You can keep it warm for me. But I was not at the game last night. So how was the view from up there?
Oh, it's always awesome up there. It's actually a good thing that I was there because what was it like 3 weeks ago that I was up there with you. And I had emptied a soda bottle after I finished it. Forgot that I left it on that little ledge over on your right side there. Guess it was still there. So I was like, I got to throw that out.
That was yours. Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I only drink water up in the press box, and so if you see a Poland Spring water on that little ledge, it's usually mine, and then I try to sneak it back into my laptop because I don't want anybody at the arena to know that I'm sneaking in Poland Spring water because, that would be bad, right?
Exactly.
Gary, let's talk about Binghamton and Watertown for a second. Coming into this weekend, Watertown had scored 28 goals in 3 games, and the Binghamton Black Bears held them to 3. I couldn't have imagined that myself. I know that Brant Sherwood and the team were very confident that they were going to be able to defensively slow down the Watertown Wolves, but I think all of us mortals on the outside probably didn't think about that as much as they did. What are your thoughts on this weekend?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised, but the main reason I think that the Black Bears had such success is because they had such active sticks. It was textbook defensive hockey. Your sticks down on the ice, you're sweeping, you're poking, you're reaching. And it seemed like every loose puck, every individual battle that Binghamton could win, they won.
Right.
It was amazing.
Well, but let me ask you about that because, Binghamton last year was known as a very offensively gifted team that sometimes won games because the best defense for them was the best offense. Yet, obviously, in Friday night's game and in a couple games where they've shut out people 2-0, 4-0, they have played good defensive hockey. Why do you think such a turn this year to playing some very good defensive hockey versus just pouring on the gas on the fire and lighting up the scoreboard?
Well, I think that is just starting in camp. Brant Sherwood looking ahead and anticipating. Obviously, you look at the success that Watertown has had up to this point, and they can light it up usually.
Right.
And that's the thing is there is such a focus with most of the teams that are very competitive in the Fed this year. There is a lot more emphasis on defense. They're kind of looking at what the Black Bears did last year. And so, when there is that much commitment already to defense, that's only going to make Brant make sure that we're prioritizing that end of the ice and making sure that we're taking care of business so that we can shut down the high-scoring teams.
Yeah, and you talked about, obviously sweeping the stick and moving the stick around to make sure that you're plugging lanes, getting a stick on the puck that's kind of maybe going past you and ricocheting it and changing into different directions to kind of slow down an offensively gifted team, which I do believe that Watertown is an offensively gifted team. I think the Black Bears are a very talented team. I think they're all very good athletes. So do you think that because of that, they can switch from, okay, in this game, we're going to be offensively minded, and in other games, we're going to be like, oh, wait, we're just going to play strictly defense to really slow down an offensively gifted team. Do you think that is what the Black Bears are this year versus last year?
I think we are a complete team this year. I really do. I'm amazed by it because we've had so many problems with injuries and people being in and out of the lineup with the defensive core. But the unit, and that's the key word, unit, is working so well together that they all have each other's backs. Mm-hmm. And even the few times where maybe one person was out of position, the battery mate was right there last night to make sure, okay, I got this, don't worry about it. There weren't really any defensive errors last night.
Yeah, up until Saturday night, the road teams have won the first three games between Watertown and Binghamton. But then Binghamton came in last night and kind of blew that out of the water with a 9-2 win. I was a little surprised when I looked at, those three games and said, wait a second here, the road team won the first three games. That's just such an odd thing when you talk about Binghamton, who obviously was so good last year at home, but this year seemed to be almost as good on the road as they are at home.
Yeah. I mean, they have 2 losses at home and 1 on the road. So in 16 games, that's not bad.
No. Okay, so all right, so the last couple weeks, I think people were reluctant to put Binghamton in the power rankings as number 1. But now that we've seen, without Brant Sherwood, they can go 3-4. Without Tyson Kirkby, they can still win a game 2-1. Without Blake Tosto and Cameron Clark, they can still do enough to go 3-4 in those games as well. The Black Bears have seen a little bit of everything so far this year when it comes to injuries, call-ups. Are they right now still maybe the number 1 team in the league?
I think so. I just did my personal power rankings, and yep, I got Binghamton number 1.
Is it? Do we give them, like, say this upcoming weekend they play Friday night against the Port Huron Prowlers, and the Prowlers come in and they just kind of like do what, Matt Graham's teams usually do, which is kind of like just get in the way, and they kind of trip you a little bit. They trip you up a little bit, that type of thing. If say Port Huron gets a 4-3 win, does that hurt Binghamton's ranking, especially if they come around the next day and they beat them, like, say, 6-1? Does that hurt their rankings? Should we give them a little bit of latitude, because you can't win every single game in a 56-game season?
Well, no, and the hard part about doing power rankings in this early stage of the season, I mean, we're only a quarter of the way through the season.
Sure.
It's such a temptation when you're doing power rankings to just kind of live in the moment and to say, oh, well, these guys won both of their games this weekend, we're going to bump them up.
Right.
As the year wears on, that's going to become less and less of a consideration, really, and you're gonna be able to see the bigger picture. I think we're seeing the bigger picture with just a select couple of teams, but Binghamton would be one of them.
Yeah.
Where you just see, there's not much that's going to trip these guys up.
Yeah. Tyson Kirkby is now the franchise leader in points. He doesn't have it in goals. He has it in assists, and he has it in points. He has it in games played. He's at 199 in points. He's in the top 15 right now in Binghamton hockey history. I know that there's all these different leagues that Binghamton hockey history has seen, from the NHL Dusters, which I guess could almost be equatable to a AA, level. There was some connections between NHL teams and WHA teams with the Dusters. Even in the first 4 years, there was a guy or two that could come down and play and did play, that type of thing. So I guess my question to you is this. Obviously, when it comes to, longevity, he's been here, for 4 years, good parts of 4 years. He's now got the points leader. He's in that top 15, top 12, I think it is, for points all-time in Binghamton hockey history. Where does Tyson Kirkby come down as a player? He just got that game up in Adirondack in the ECHL on Friday night. Where does he land for you on players? How important is he to the Black Bears, and how important is he to the history of Binghamton hockey?
Well, it's hard to compare apples to oranges.
Sure.
It's not like you can just say, here's Ross Yates, here's Tyson Kirkby, we're just going to mash them together in the same boat. It's really hard to do that. But you look at I haven't seen a leader like him as far as just the way that he takes the whole team on his shoulders since Denny Hamel. Really,
right.
We've had several great captains in Binghamton hockey history.
Sure.
But that really kind of struck at me yesterday as I'm watching the game and watch Kirkby playing, and he gets the assist, and he just acts like, all right, next thing, let's keep going.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
He's good at blocking things out. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and that's a good thing to have as a hockey player, especially when you are the captain of a team.
Yeah, and I saw even from last year, I saw a lot of maturity from him last night, and it was very good to see. And I'm not saying that he was immature before, but he has progressed in his career, and there was definitely. It seemed like there was another step taken forward in his career last night.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about something that maybe isn't that great of a situation right now for the league, and that's Hudson Valley. Obviously, for the fans who may not completely understand the story, Hudson Valley was a team that was purchased by Pat Manning from basically the FPHL, the old Elmira Mammoth franchise, brought down to Hudson Valley. There was talk about them being playing in the McCann Arena, which was a little bit bigger, in Poughkeepsie, if I remember correctly. And then they made the change to go down to the smaller arena. And things just kind of have spiraled out of control a little bit. Pat Manning is no longer involved in the team, him and his wife. The league is kind of taking things over a little bit. First of all, give me your thoughts on initially when they decided to bring in Hudson Valley, right? And they were like, okay, this is a 45-minute drive from Danbury, 2.15 hours from Binghamton. It's close enough. It's a nice Band-Aid place to go, but everyone was you and I were both concerned about how many fans were they going to be able to pull in. But your initial thoughts about Hudson Valley coming in?
When everything happened, my thought was basically, well, obviously Elmira is closed off.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed. So I guess it's a good thing that we're obviously. I know Hudson Valley was a quote unquote new team, but it was still basically just a different iteration of the River Sharks. And I thought, well, okay, they're keeping things going. That's good, except for then, we found out how the situation was playing out. And, I know that Pat Manning had great plans and he had a vision, but, you can have vision if you don't have the practical know-how to go with it. It's not going to work.
Now, you've actually talked to Pat, I think more through messaging and stuff like that, but you had a conversation. There was a plan for you even to come up and see a game there. He seemed positive that, things could work. I know they started doing the $10 ticket prices to hopefully to get more fans to show up. What were your initial thoughts from your conversations a little bit, even through messaging with Pat Manning?
Well, he had a great great ambition. He obviously recognized, okay, what we have done so far isn't working. What can we do? He kind of reminded me of Charlie O'Finney a little bit. It's like let's find a way of getting these people pulled in. We've got. He quoted to me that the driving area, or fans in his driving area, as he put it, was 2.4 million fans. He said we just got to figure out a way of getting those people in here. Unfortunately, it just. I think it was too little, too late. The biggest problem is that there were a minimum amount of corporate sponsorships sold to help fund the team,
which is important.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much more important than most people realize.
Yeah.
And that wasn't there, and that basically kind of started everything snowballing.
Yeah, I can tell fans that back in the Senators' days, and I don't know the numbers exactly for the Black Bears, but back in the Senators' days, there was anywhere from $400,000 in corporate sales sold to $1 million, right? So that's a pretty nice hefty capital that you can help run a team. And that's even before ticket sales and merchandise and food concessions, whatever. You have a certain amount of capital. If you only have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 sold in that kind of corporate sponsorship, you're going to go nowhere. It's just not going to work.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you think the league can do to somehow Band-Aid the situation and keep Hudson Valley and those players? Now, first of all, I just want to say something, because we haven't done this in the 5 minutes we've talked about this already. I feel bad for the players. And I don't care what your allegiance is from whatever team. These kids just want to play hockey. And they were put into a situation where they thought, okay, we're going to build something new and it's going to be great. And the Venom name isn't that horrible. And the jerseys seem to be, okay. And the logo was good. And but again, I feel bad for these players because they don't deserve it. MJ Merkel started to turn around that team. I know they didn't fare well this weekend, but he was starting to turn that team around. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're in this confunkery again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's really the heartbreaking part of it. Even right now in the situation that they're in, they're trying to not just work out how to reschedule games, but they're working on where can we put these guys so they can practice.
Sure.
My understanding is before going down to Blue Ridge, they had one practice over the course of a week and a half.
I see. That's not fair. So, that's not good.
No, exactly. And it showed. I was able to watch parts of both of the Blue Ridge Hudson Valley games this last weekend, and they played much better on Saturday, kind of because they started to get back in the rhythm. Friday, they looked terrible. It was just like, oh my goodness, let's just raise the white flag. But yeah, these are young men just trying to live out a dream and do what they can. And when it seems like everything's against them, that's got to be really disheartening.
Yeah, and again, one practice in 10 days, that's not good at all. I do know that when you're looking at their schedule and you're looking out through December, they really only have 3 home games that were kind of scheduled at the Ice Time Sports Complex. The next one was supposed to be Friday the 13th against the Danbury Hat-Tricks. And again, from everything that I've heard, the Ice Time Complex wants to have nothing to do with the league, wants to have nothing to do with anything that has to do with that. What does the league do in this case?
Well, that's a good question. I did some research a couple hours ago, and I went on the Hudson Valley page and went under the ticket tab, and they had dates for this month, December 7th, against Watertown, which has been rescheduled. It will now be played in Watertown.
Yep. That's already on the league site too. As Watertown, and I know that they were supposed to be there, but they still had the Danbury game scheduled for the 13th. Now, the hard part about Danbury and switching it to the Danbury arena is sometimes they play youth tournament, games.
Yep, exactly.
And if something's scheduled, those youth kids like are vicious. Like, you don't take their ice time away from them. Fans who have kids who play youth hockey, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, it's supposed to be a home and home.
Yeah.
Obviously, the game in Danbury, no problem. You play that as normal. But they are still looking for a site for the 13th, which on the Ticketmaster page just says canceled. It says that for all 4 dates in December. And then the next thing is, what do you do on the 21st? What do you do on the 27th?
Yeah.
Those haven't been figured out. Now, the 27th is the Black Bears. So might there be a date available at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena? I don't know.
Yeah.
That might get changed, but I'm not sure. Right now, the league is just doing this week by week, literally.
Yeah. So, and if I remember correctly, you did say something either on the Fed League Flash Facebook page or in one of your things. They're not going to make an official announcement. They're just going to go week by week, right?
Yeah, it seems that way. And I'm not going to say it's the right thing to do, it's the wrong thing to do, because I'm not in the position to make those decisions. But it's a big headache for all parties involved.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you and I have definitely done, we've done our fair share of criticizing the league, right? But if they can get through the rest of this season and somehow the Venom survive and pretty much they get mostly 56 games for almost every single team, I think we got to give them kudos for being able to figure that out and work that out. Because, again, I've given them a ton of, crap for things, but if they can work through that, and again, I feel worse for the players and even for the few fans that probably bought some tickets and merchandise and they're thinking, okay, especially Elmira fans. We know, you and I know some Elmira fans that are literally now going through this a second time. Well, maybe a third time in 3 years.
Yeah.
Changing team names and whatnot. So What is your guess that we might see happen? Do we see the Venom just not play a full 56 games, and that means a few other teams don't play a full 56, and we go to the points percentage?
Well, I think, I think we're definitely going to be having the points percentage factored in. I do not see the Venom playing in the best case scenario.
Right.
I don't see them playing 56 games. Whether we can get things changed around where the other 13 teams can get to 56 games, I think that's probably the objective right now for the league.
Yeah.
And Hudson Valley will kind of, fill in the stopgap. I mean, I'm hoping and praying that Hudson Valley can get maybe 45 games in this year. That I think that would be optimal.
Right.
If that happens, and especially because some of the talent they have. I mean, they have Gisso, they have Norica, they have Gaeta and Beloff. I mean, they've got good
players. Yeah. And guys who are finally starting to respond to MJ Merkel being behind the bench alone. Well, not alone, but, just strictly being behind the bench and running the team. They were starting to, before the craziness kind of happened, they were starting to respond to him. Are you surprised about that? Because when I watched MJ Merkel play, I didn't think, he's going to be a coach someday, and he might be impacting others' players' lives in a positive way. I didn't think that, but I truly saw in about 4 or 5 games a guy who was starting to make a team play like a team.
Yeah, I will freely admit I am not the biggest MJ Merkel fan. However, I've got to give him full props and full kudos because he has united that team.
Sure.
I have it on very good authority from several other people who are close to several of the members of the team that, they would give their right arm for Merkel and vice versa. So, he is watching out for them, and he's doing everything that he can to try and make the best of the situation and still, carry on. It's like, hey, we're a hockey team. Let's act like a hockey team. Let's go out and perform. He's done an amazing job.
What can Andreas, Norm from Danbury, and the guys up in Watertown, what can they do do you think, to help the situation with Hudson Valley? Is it about getting a couple more dates in each of their barns for Hudson Valley to play Watertown in their barn a couple more times like they've already done for next week, and maybe in Danbury as well, and then in Binghamton as well? Is that the only thing they can do, or is there more that can be done? I know you told me that there was a bus situation that Watertown helped with.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a situation in which Watertown was getting help.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But the NA3 team from Binghamton actually offered Watertown the bus to get down to the Black Bears last night. Unfortunately, the bus broke down on the way up, so Watertown had to go back to their plan B. Mm-hmm. But they got in okay. But it could be something like that. But I think ultimately it's going to be the league executive board that really has to kind of hammer this out and figure things out.
Yeah, put the work in, basically. So let's sidle that into the state of the league. Is the league doing okay, Gary? I mean, do we have a league that is stable enough that sure, you might have a Hudson Valley happen? Obviously, there's nothing wrong right now with Motor City. Yes, they've released a lot of people, and there was all that kind of craziness. But Motor City, because of Scott Brand, did very well in corporate sponsorships, as you've reported multiple times. But what about the state of the league, the whole league in general? We haven't seen Athens play a home game yet. That should happen hopefully in 10 days or 9 days or 8 days, whatever it is. What is your thoughts on the state of the league as a whole?
Well, it's kind of a good news, bad news situation.
Sure.
We had a couple of hiccups this year, obviously, which that stems off from the fact that the league just expanded too fast and too far. Is the whole league going to collapse? No, of course not. There are enough teams that are doing very well that are going to be able to hold things down. There is the possibility that a team or two may relocate for next season. There's even the possibility that a couple might not make it, and there's a little contraction that takes place. But I still think that you can have a league of 12, 13 teams next year, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It just happened too fast, because then you had the haves and the have-nots. Obviously, the have-nots, we know who they are. It's pretty apparent. So I think if the executive board just kind of takes their foot off the gas just a little bit and say, hey, let's take the scenic route and take some time to smell the roses.
Sure.
As we continue on in our journey, I think they'll be okay. I really do.
So let me ask you about Monroe, right? They're second to last place in the Continental Division, but they're number one in attendance with a 4,519 through 10 games. Now, if that was only through 2 or 3 games, I'd be like, okay, let's see what really happens. But that's through 10 games. That's 10 of their 28 home games. They're averaging 4,500. And we all know that hockey attendance usually picks up a little bit after the holidays. So, Is Monroe for real?
Yeah.
Fan-wise?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, the owner is Nick Perkin, but Parker Moscow, he is a part owner.
Sure.
He is also the managing partner. He's making all the decisions. And I tell you what, he's got the Midas touch right now. He really does.
Yeah.
It's not just attendance, but the marketing that they got going. He's still selling corporate accounts.
That's awesome.
Which is great.
That's awesome.
His merchandise sales are off the charts. It's just amazing. And he's done a great job down there. Obviously, I know he would like to be more successful on the ice.
But it's a first year team, and we always have said that unless it's an anomaly like Binghamton, right? First year team, Binghamton still had a winning record, still did pretty good, and Monroe could obviously turn it around. They've played 17 games this season, tied for the most with Baton Rouge at this point. So they could turn it around still, but yeah, it's not. It's not going to be like Delaware and they only win 1 game. They've already got 6 wins on the season, so it's just a matter of
Out of 17 games, they got blown out once. All the other 16 games, they have been very competitive, and they lead the league in 1-goal games.
Wow.
13 of the 17 games that they have played has been decided by 1 goal.
Do you remember?
They're competitive.
Do you remember a certain Binghamton Whalers that did the same type of thing? They lost the most amount, but they had so many 1-goal games in that 89-90 season. It was ridiculous when you go through the record book and you see that. It's just like, how many games can they lose by 1 goal? And they did that so much. Let me ask you about Baton Rouge, okay? Because Baton Rouge right now is first in the Continental Division. Technically, they have 10 wins. I apologize. They have 12 wins because they have the 2 overtime wins, and they have 3 shootout wins. Yet their attendance dropped this year. Now, you told me that they've had some unfortunate scheduling issues, right, in Baton Rouge, which because last year they were in the 4,000s and they've dropped down to about 3,000 on an average, and obviously that's a little worrisome because they're playing well. They're a good team, right? And people should be going out. Everett Thompson has done a great job as a coach. Here's another guy you never thought would be a coach, and he's turned out to do really well. Yep.
And he's the GM, too.
Yeah.
And 2 of the best things that he did was, first of all, getting in Dmitry Kuznetsov,
who was great with Danbury. Yep.
Exactly. And he didn't have good numbers in Mississippi because he was really badly hurt. His shoulder was torn up, and nobody knows that, or almost nobody knows that.
Yeah.
So he's been able to regain his scoring touch. They got Elijah Wilson and picking up Brody
Thornton. What a pick!
Oh my goodness! Oh, that guy is just on fire right now. It's incredible.
By the way, Brody still follows pretty much everything I do on Instagram and likes some of the stuff. He was only with the team. He only played 5 games with Binghamton last year. I don't even think he registered a point. Maybe he did. Maybe he registered like 1 point or 2 points, whatever.
One assist.
But literally 15 points this year, 7 goals, 8 assists. He's turned out really well. But just another credit to Brant Sherwood's recruitment, of course.
Yeah.
But this is a good team. Yet, talk a little bit about their scheduling, because I think you said a couple Tuesday games, a Thursday game. They haven't had the best of schedule this year.
No. Last year they had, out of their 28 games, I believe they had, I want to say 10 Friday games, and they have almost none this year. I think they only have 3 or 4 Friday games.
That hurts.
And yeah, exactly. That really hurts. So to make up for that, they're playing on Thursday nights and Wednesday nights and Tuesday nights, and you're not going to get the crowds on those nights. Plus, you've got LSU football going on, and everybody's crazy about that. So once college football is over,
you think it's still going to start to pick up? It'll pick up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So lastly, before I let you go, Athens. We haven't seen a home game yet. They're working on the arena. It looks like it's going to be a really nice, small, perfect size arena. You could probably play ECHL, maybe even AHL, because there's a couple AHL cities out, like in San Diego, and a couple of the new rinks for the AHL that are about almost the same size as what they're going to have in Athens. So it's a perfect little size. I think they're going to be able to pull concerts in there, the circus if they want to, and other events that will help make that arena some money. So Athens started off really well in the league. I think they've cooled off just a little bit, probably playing a little bit better talented teams recently. It's almost like an enigma. I don't know what to think about Athens yet because I haven't seen a home game yet. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, now, I was extremely skeptical when I saw the ticket prices getting posted online for Athens. I thought, oh, my goodness, I can't see paying that much money for a hockey game. But I've been told now that the seating capacity is 5,500. They have 4,600 tickets sold already for the opening night game.
Okay, cool.
So
good.
Yeah. So you still have a week to go before the game to sell those remaining 900 tickets. So they could sell out that opening game.
I hope they do. I think that would be a great thing for the league. It would be like okay, I know we're struggling with Hudson Valley, but here, we got Athens, and look what we did here. So I think that would be a good thing if they could do that.
Yeah. And I mean, my goodness, that marketing team and the business office, they're top notch. I mean, they've been in minor league hockey for many years already in other markets.
Well, sports in general. We're talking about Spire Sports is what you're talking about, and Spire they run NASCAR teams, and they also have 3 ECHL teams, if I remember correctly. So this is they have a lot.
Yeah. Plus, I think I heard they also have a part ownership stakes in one of the AHL clubs too.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah. So their sports empire is pretty. It casts a pretty wide net.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that first game and how they do on their home games. And I got to be honest with you, once they start playing some home games and we see, like Monroe, 10 games in, 11 games into their home game schedule, it'll be interesting to see where they bounce out average-wise. Obviously, Binghamton's going to stay within the top 2 or 3 no matter what, I believe. That's just going to be normal for them. Gary, the next time we talk, because we're not going to do it now, next time we talk, we need to delve into Danville and talk and let people know, the fans, about Danville in that situation. But it is the Fed League Flash. You're on speaker, the Fed Flash audio network. God, you make it as complicated as I do sometimes when I'm going through everything. But you have all the different places that people can listen. Obviously, YouTube, Facebook Live, and you don't take a day off. And when you do, everybody freaks out and says, "Where's Gary?" Even the people who are against you are like, "Where's Gary? How come he's not spreading any lies? What's going on? Where's Gary? Where's Gary?" Right? So Gary,
a couple weeks ago was pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. Sometimes we get information. Sometimes we get information that changes 5 minutes after we're given that information, and it's difficult. And I don't think people truly understand that. All we're trying to do, you and me, and even Christian from Minor Pro Hockey, and a couple other people that do pay attention, the bench minor guys, when we get information and we think we can disperse that information, sometimes that information changes 5 minutes later. It's not because we don't mean to, spread false information or whatever. It's just the way the shit happens in this damn world when it comes to sports, and especially at this level of hockey. So I don't look at it bad on you at all or anything. I think if they're hating on you, it means they're still paying attention to you, right?
Yeah.
So
that's true. That's what Travis Region always says.
I can cut this interview very short if you're going to bring up him. But no, he's right. But he's 100% right? We pay attention to him because it's sometimes, hey, let's see what the train wreck is doing these days. But Gary, go through how people can listen to you.
Okay. Weekends, it's YouTube videos primarily. Yep. I try to keep things up to date as much as I can on Facebook, which, is kind of hard driving a truck. But, I do my best. And then the Flash Audio Network is 5 platforms tied together. It's Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and CastBox.
Awesome. I say those all the time, but I still have to read it because I can never remember all the platforms that I'm on. Gary, as always, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. We don't do this enough, but when we do it, I make sure we give enough time. Next time we talk, hopefully in a few weeks, I want to bring up Danville and maybe a couple other cities as we talk about the state of the league a little bit more, okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome. He is Gary Ryan from the Fed League Flash, who sat in my seat last night, and hopefully he didn't leave me any presents.
No.
And I'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I want to thank Gary for coming on. Gary and I talk probably almost every single day. Sometimes it's information and sometimes it's jokes. And he sends me a lot of gifts. I'm not a good gift giver. I'm a good gift giver, but I'm not a good gift giver. I do want to say thank you very much, everybody who really kind of indulged me this weekend. I was away in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey with my wife. We do some Christmas shopping when we're down there. We love Christmas, and we took our Christmas card picture down by the beach, which was pretty cool. First time we actually did that in the 25 years that we took the picture down there. So that was pretty cool. It was very cold, by the way, on Sunday morning in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey. We're not used to it being that cold there next to the ocean, but it was, and it can be. So that was a lot of fun. But thank you very much, everybody, for still interacting so much between Instagram and Facebook when it came to my coverage of the Binghamton Black Bears. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. I put all my coverage there in the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well as the Fed League Flashes, Gary Ryan. Folks, I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Cyber Monday is coming up tomorrow as I'm recording this on Sunday. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll be back on Thursday with another great show and hopefully some great coverage of the Binghamton Black Bears and the FPHL. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.